Hello, my name is Sathana, and welcome to Math Help Sessions, a YouTube channel where I will be posting videos on tricks and techniques that you can use to solve math problems in both the middle school and high school level. Hopefully, by watching these videos, you'll be able to learn these techniques and apply them in other situations. This is my first video, and today's topic will be hard trinomial factoring. So, the basic structure. Hard trinomial factoring occurs when you have the expression ax squared plus bx plus c and you want to factor it. But the slight difference is in order to do hard trinomial factoring, you must have an a value that is greater than 1. And in order to hard trinomial factor, you need to take the bx and you need to be able to separate it into two separate terms that when you multiply those two terms together, their product is a times c, and when you add them together, their sum is b. This may be a little bit confusing, but once I get into the examples, I'm sure you'll understand. By splitting them up, you'll be able to get 4 terms, and then you can use common factoring in order to fully factor this expression. So let's look at some examples on how to do hard trinomial factoring. Example 1. We have 2x squared plus 5x plus c plus 3. As always, you want to be able to go back to the structure ax squared plus bx plus c. So in this case, if we compare, we can get a's value to equal 2, b to equal 5, and c to equal 3. This is important because we need to find two terms whose product is equal to a times c, which in this case is 2 times 3, which is 6. So we need to find two terms which, when multiplied together, give you the number 6. So there are a variety of pairs of numbers. 1 times 6 and 2 times 3 are both pairs that will give you the value of 6. However, the other restriction that was that you needed to have two terms that, when added together, would give you the sum of b, which in this case is 5. So the two numbers that multiply to give you 6 and add up to give you 5 is 2 and 3. So we can substitute 5x for 2x plus 3x. And if we do that, we now have 4 terms. Now, in order to simplify this, we can common factor between these two terms and these two terms by grouping them. In the first two terms, we can common factor out 2x. And then in the second two terms, we can common factor out a 3. And if we do that and we common factor out 2x from the first two terms, from this term we get an x. And from this term, what's left is a 1. And if we common factor out a 3 from these two terms, what's left from this term is an x. And what's left from this term is a 1. It's important to note that the values in these two brackets are the exact same, because if they are not, you cannot do the next step. If you cannot find two numbers that will result in you having two of the same brackets, that means that expression is not factorable through common factoring. So the next step is, since these two terms both have a factor of x plus 1, you can common factor that out, and what's left, it will be 2x and 3. And if you do that and you common factor out an x plus 1, you'll have a 2x plus 3 left. And therefore, you have now factored the expression 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 into x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. Let's move on to the second example. Here we have 8x squared plus 2x minus 1. And here, the a value is 8. The b value is 2, and the c value is negative 1. It's important to go back to the structure ax squared plus bx plus c, and you can see that in order to have plus c, there should be a positive sign. So in order to have a positive sign here, the c value must be negative 1, as we can see here. So a times c is negative 8. We need to find pairs of numbers that multiply to negative 8. You can have positive 1, negative 8, positive 8, negative 1. Or you can have positive 2 times negative 4, negative 4 times positive 2. In this case, the values also need to be able to add up to positive 2. So the two terms that work are 4x and negative 2x. And if you substitute them back into the original expression, you'll have 4 terms. And now you can group these two terms and these two terms and common factor. And if you common factor between these two terms, you will get 4x. And if you common factor out of 4x from this, you will have 2x remaining. And if you common factor at 4x, you'll have a plus 1 remaining. And if you common factor between these two terms, you will only have a negative 1. Generally, you don't write the 1 from a negative 1, and you just write the minus sign. And if you common factor out a negative 1, you will have a 2x remaining here and a positive 1 remaining here. Now, in these two terms, both terms have a common factor of 2x plus 1. And if we factor that 2x plus 1 out, from this term we have a 4x, which is here, and from this term we have a negative 1, which is here. And now you have common factored 8x squared plus 2x plus 1 into 2x plus 1 times 4x minus 1. Now let's look at a third example. In this example, we have 12x squared plus 12x minus 9. Now, before we get into finding the a, b, and c values, let's look at this expression for a minute. We can see that these three terms have a common factor of 3. So, if we common factor out this 3, the remaining expression will be much smaller, and therefore we will have to deal with much smaller numbers, which just makes it easier for us. If we don't common factor out the 3 and we continue solving, we will be able to factor out that 3 at the end. However, the process itself will be much more complicated because we will have to work with larger numbers. So if we factor out the 3, we have 4x squared minus 4x minus 3. And this is much smaller than this. And if we look at the a value and b value and c value, we have a equals to 4, b equals to negative 4, and c equals to negative 3. So a times 3 is equal to negative 12. So now we need to find factors that when multiplied together give you negative 12, but when you add them give you negative 4. So in this case, those two numbers are positive 2x and negative 6x. Now we have 4 terms which we can then group together and common factor. And if we do that, between these two terms, the common factor is 2x. And if we factor that out, we have 2x and a 1. And between these two terms, the common factor is negative 3. And if we factor that out, we get 2x plus 1. Because both of these two terms have a common factor of 2x plus 1, we can factor that out. And what's left is 2x plus 1. And if we factor that out, we get 2x and minus 3. So the total factored form of 12x squared minus 12x minus 9 is 3 times 2x plus 1 times 2x minus 3. Now let's go to our fourth and final example. We have 6x squared minus x minus 35. Now, we can see that 35 is a larger number, but because there are no common factors between these three terms, we cannot common factor, and therefore our numbers will be a bit larger. So a is equal to 6, b is equal to negative 1, and c is equal to negative 35. And if we multiply a times c, we get negative 210. And because 210 is a larger number, it's okay if you want to use a calculator to try and find the two terms that we will break apart b into. In this case, those numbers are negative 15x and positive 14x. And if we split this up, we have 4 terms which we can now group together and common factor. And if we group the first 2 terms together, we can factor out a 3x. And what we have left is a 2x from here and a negative 5 from here. And if we common factor these 2 terms, we have a 7. And if we factor that out, we get 2x and a minus 5. And because we have a common factor of 2x minus 5 in both of these terms, we can common factor that out and we would get 3x plus 7. So, to recap, hard trinomial factoring works when you have an expression in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is greater than 1 and you want to factor that equation or expression. It's important to remember that in order to hard trinomial factor, you need to find two terms whose product is equal to a times c and whose sum is equal to b. And by finding those two terms, you will have an expression in the form of ax squared plus px plus qx plus c. Now that you have these four terms, you can group together these two terms, and you can common factor between those two pairs of terms. And the brackets that you have, you can then factor out, which will result in two brackets and give you a fully factored form of the original expression. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned how to hard trinomial factor. And if you want more videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you for watching.